MeMonster.
Chapter 341 Ball's Castle. Kim Suho continued to climb a seemingly endless spiral staircase. As he ascended, he kept thinking about what Jin Sayuk had said 2 hours earlier. Kim Hajin has complicated feelings for me, so much so that it's troubling even for me. If you knew how Kim Hajin feels, you would all be shocked speechless. Unable to understand her meaning, Kim Suho called out to Shin Jong-hak. Shin Jong-hak, do you know anything about it? About what? About what Jin Sayuk said. Shin Jong-hak shook his head. What, really? Don't worry about it, Suho. I'm sure she's lying. Why would Fenrir like that crazy woman anyway? Aileen cut in. To be honest, Kim Suho thought the same, but he knew Jin Sayuk wasn't the type to make such jokes. She considered herself royalty, and joking didn't suit her dignity. Rather than that, I'm curious when we'll reach the end of this staircase. Aileen crossed her arms, looking annoyed. Just as she said, the group had been climbing for almost 3 hours, but they still hadn't seen anything resembling a pathway. Oi, black-haired girl! Aileen called out to Jin Sayuk, who climbed ahead. Jin Sayuk stopped and looked back. Are you sure we're going the right way? Who knows? Jin Sayuk shrugged. What, really? Aileen scowled, but Jin Sayuk only smirked. What other choice do we have? It's not like we can shout for Ball to come out. Let's just keep going. In the meantime, I'll send a mental transmission to Black Lotus. Mental transmission to Black Lotus? Yep. Jin Sayuk nodded and sent a mental transmission to Kim Hajin. Her method was unique, using reality manipulation to do so. I'm in Ball's castle with Kim Suho. You stay outside. Don't enter the castle. If you want to save the world, then do as I say. Kim Ha-jin replied about 3 minutes later. Why? It was a short, blunt question. Jin Sayuk laughed inwardly at his reaction. Behind her, Aileen's loud voice rang out. Come on, how long do we have to... Oh, there it is! Jin Sayuk interrupted and pointed to a spot on the staircase. Shin Jong-hak, Kim Suho, Aileen all turned to look. Huh? You're right, it really is there. But there wasn't anything just a moment ago. Aileen's eyes widened. Just as she said, a huge gate had suddenly appeared where there was nothing before. I'll go in first. Shin Jong-hak stepped forward as soon as he saw the gate. He hurried up the stairs, 3 steps at a time until he reached it. Seeing Shin Jong-hak practically running, Jin Sayuk smiled. Soon, all 4 reached the gate. Standing before the ogre-sized doors, Shin Jong-hak looked at Jin Sayuk, who nodded. Shin Jong-hak grabbed the right knob, Kim Suho the left. Together they pushed. Geek! The giant gate opened with a harsh sound. Immediately, a brilliant light shone from the other side, and classical music began to play. The 4 blinked at the dazzling light, and in the next instant, their thoughts stopped. A scene they hadn't expected appeared before them. Where is this? Aileen muttered, glancing around. Simply put, they were in a banquet hall. A fancy chandelier cast light in all directions, and a sumptuous feast was laid out. Well-dressed men and women danced to the music. No matter how they looked at it, they were in a banquet hall. There he is. While the others stood confused, Jin Sayuk spotted someone in the crowd and smiled. Kim Suho and Shin Jong-hak followed her gaze, while Aileen's attention was caught by a waiter holding a plate of chocolates. That's Lee Yun-jun, the previous boss of the Chameleon Troupe. The moment Jin Sayuk said this, What? Aileen's eyes shot open, turning to Lee Yun-jun. That bastard, he's really alive? Aileen also had a bad history with Lee Yun-jun. He was sitting on a chair at a balcony on the upper floor, looking down at the crowd. Demon Realm Gate, Ball's Barrier. I stood in front of Ball's castle. Jane and Shimurin were next to me. Although I'd used up most of my bullets, I'd eliminated all the demonic beasts inside the barrier. Soon Rachel, Yun-sung-ah, and the other heroes should arrive. Let's go in. Just as I was about to enter Ball's castle, I'm in Ball's castle with Kim Suho. You stay outside. Don't enter the castle. If you want to save the world, then do as I say. Jin Sayuk's mental transmission reached me. I paused. Huh? What's up to? Jane tilted her head. Hold on. I just got a strange message. I messaged back. Why? But she didn't answer. After waiting a few minutes, I considered ignoring her warning and going inside, but I thought it over and decided the changed Jin Sayuk wouldn't lie to me. Let's wait a bit more. I spread ether out like a mat and sat down. Jane and Shimurin sat next to me. Jane yawned and Shimurin took out a scroll. Is that the dimension scroll? I looked at her scroll with interest. Shimurin nodded with a grin. This is a scroll that summons a portal connecting two dimensions. It's still incomplete and unsafe. The portal isn't big enough either. There's still a lot to fix. Why? Do you want to try it? I stared at the scroll. Then an idea flashed in my mind. Let me test something. I took out 2 A4-sized pieces of paper. Shimurin tilted her head. What's that? They're just pieces of paper for now. I activated Setting Intervention, adding linkage, recording, and durability to their setting, and I also changed the name to Messenger. Now it's a messenger. What? Shimurin's eyebrows rose and Jane looked over interestedly. A messenger. If you write something on one paper, the same thing appears on the other. I demonstrated. Shimurin nodded. So that's what it is. You want to send this to your world. Exactly. Shimurin rubbed her chin, thinking. After about 30 seconds, she spoke. It's likely the paper will burn while crossing over. It's fine. This paper has good durability. At the very least, it should withstand burning. You're that confident? This scroll might look tiny, but it's expensive enough to be a national treasure, you know? Just do it. Who cares about money when the world is at risk? Well, that's true. Shimurin coughed and tore the scroll in half. The Grand Magician's magic power flowed into the scroll and a small, fist-sized portal appeared. All right, Kim Hajin, it's your turn now. Got it. I sent Stigma's magic power into the portal and set the coordinate to Evandel's cabin. Done. I'm going to give it a go then. I wrote a message on the paper, folded it into a paper airplane, and sent it flying into the portal. With my master sharpshooter gift, the paper airplane flew perfectly. Wow, how cool! So we just have to wait now? Jane muttered, but Shimurin and I only stared at the remaining paper. It was then. We just found Yi and June in what seems to be the first stage, a banquet hall. You wait outside and destroy Ball's castle with an arrow when I give the signal. I know you can do it. Jin Sahak finally replied. What is she talking about? I muttered. When Shimurin and Jane looked at me, I replied. Are you crazy? How am I supposed to destroy Ball's castle? You can do it. No way. It was impossible, especially when even Ball's barrier could only be partially destroyed with the help of the Mystic Key. Wait, Mystic Key? You should be able to do it, so when I give the signal, shoot immediately and destroy the castle. Ignoring my worries, Jin Sahak gave a firm command. Earth, Evandel and Hai Yong's cabin. Meanwhile, Ah Hae-in and Evandel returned to Evandel's domain. TV? Evandel hummed as she turned on the TV. Valak's army retreated from Europe. A timely news report came on. Dukas Ah Hae-in and her discipline led humanity to their first victory. Ah Hae-in and Evandel had successfully stopped Valak's army from advancing into Europe. Evandel and her unicorn commanded 5,000 spirit beasts as one, while Ah Hae-in used the power of the Cardinal Guardians to force Valak to retreat. We captured footage of a black wolf defeating Valak's adjutant. Let's take a look. Ooh, look, Haiyong, we did good! Evandel watched the news with sparkling eyes. Seeing her achievements broadcasted, she was excited and proud. We captured footage of a black wolf defeating Valak's adjutant.
Let's take a look. Quah! A house-sized wolf stormed forward, crushing several demons. So cool! Krrr! Fenrir shrugged at Evendel's cheer. Ha ha! Hajin chuckled and left Evendel to enjoy her time with her spirit beasts. Then she turned on her smartwatch, which she'd kept off during the war. She was immediately flooded with messages from the association. Demon Realm Gate, Kim Suho, Eileen, Yoon Sung-ah, Shin Jong-hak, Rachel, Yoon Yan-ha, and others. Valak, Hajin. Liraj, game to be released next Monday. Astaroth, Lore, Kim Hwaong, Hee-jun, and 13 other 8-star magicians. Vasago's Coliseum, Jin Seyon, Vast Expanse, and others. She received a report on the activities of various heroes. Hajin found the name Rachel and looked back at Evendel. Evendel was clapping her hands and watching the news with wide-open eyes. Cute. A faint smile appeared on Hajin's face. She had worried when both Kim Hajin and Rachel left, but it seemed unnecessary. Tittering. As she watched Evendel play, another message arrived. Duchess Hajin, when will you introduce your discipline to the world? Everyone is curious. Earth needs an icon of hope. It was from the association again. In truth, the Hero Association already knew Hajin's discipline was a young girl named Evendel. That was why they kept pestering her. A 10-year-old genius magician who could command an army of spirit beasts. Evendel was the perfect icon of hope. Hajin ignored the message and turned off her smartwatch. At that moment, a paper airplane flew into the cabin through the window. What is this? Hajin frowned and picked up the airplane. As soon as she touched it, her face stiffened. She could feel a trace of magic power from the paper. She quickly opened it and read the contents. Evendel, are you doing well? It's me, Hajin. If you have something you want to say to me, all you have to do is write something on this piece of paper. I can reply to you on the same paper. I want to see you. It was without a doubt a message from Kim Hajin.
Chapter 342, Laris, Underground Bunker. Rachel, Yoon Sung-ah, Chae Na-yoon, and other members from Earth returned to the underground bunker. When they arrived, they were greeted with cheers from the people staying there. Iron and the Republic's knights smiled wryly as they shook hands with the evacuees. The group then headed to the office of the person in charge of the bunker, Yu Yan-ha. Yu Yan-ha greeted them, glancing back and forth between the knights and the members of the Secret Service. There are too many of you to be stuffed in this small place. 6 Secret Service members and 26 knights had entered the room. There were also hundreds of knights waiting outside. Iron sent her subordinates a shooing look. The knights took the hint and left the room, leaving behind Rachel, Chae Na-yoon, Iron, Kim Young-jin, Yi Han, and Kim Ho-rak. Whew! Yu Yan-ha wasn't happy that an outsider like Iron was still in the room, but she greeted her with a smile, knowing Iron was an important character in this world. Where's Kim Suho? Chae Na-yoon interrupted Yu Yan-ha to ask. Did he go to the bathroom? She blinked innocently. Yu Yan-ha coughed before replying. He went to Ball's castle with Lady Eileen. What? Already? Yeah, Fenrir was going to end the war with demonic beasts anyway. Yu Yan-ha made a faint smile. It was the objective truth that Kim Hajin performed the best in war. Although Kim Suho could cut down dozens of enemies with one swing of his sword, Kim Hajin could kill hundreds by the click of a button. Sorry, but where's our prince? Iron shouted urgently, clearly tired of hearing about Fenrir, Ball, and the rest. Yu Yan-ha stared at Iron before taking out 17 small bottles from her desk drawer. There's a large castle in the middle of the barrier. We call it Ball's Castle. The prince is probably there. Here, take this. Miracle herbs? Rachel muttered quietly when she saw the plants inside the bottles. She could feel the energy of elementals from the plants. That's right. We looked all over the country and could only find 17 of them.
Taking it will recover your energy within 2 to 3 hours. In other words, she wanted them to get going as soon as possible. It wasn't the most encouraging thing to hear for people who had just returned from hours of battle, but they understood the situation. The 7 of them took the bottles and consumed the herbs. Then they put the remaining 10 bottles in their pockets. Give some to Kim Suho and Eileen when you meet them. They left before I had a chance to give them out. The rest you can use in times of emergency. As she said that, Yu Yen-ha took out a suitcase and put it on the desk. Then she took out several more. Kum, 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 kum. She took out a total of 7 suitcases, and the 7 members stared at Yu Yen-ha curiously. These are treasures used for exorcism. I kind of stalled them from their original owners, but that's not important now. Use them when you reach the castle. The 7 members hesitated using stolen goods. One thing was that they were just too hungry. Hurry, there are other people I have to talk to. This bunker has over 200 people. I'm busy trying to take care of everything. Your hunger should disappear too when you consume the miracle herb. Yu Yen-ha urged the heroes, practically forcing them out with suitcases in hand. Ball's Castle, Banquet Hall. Shoot. To click. The toes of 2 people clashed. Iron furrowed her brows, but Kim Suho took the next step with determination. Damn it! Arg! But not long after, their feet tangled again. High-class music flowed in the air, but the 2 were distracted. Even so, they continued to dance. Iron grit her teeth and asked, "Why do I have to do this?" Just wait until they're done talking. Kim Suho glanced at the second floor of the banquet hall. There, Yi Yongjan was staring at Jin Sa-yuk and Shin Jong-hak. Oh, when is it ending? For the record, there was a reason Iron and Kim Suho were dancing. Bald's Castle had rules that had to be followed. Other than Jin Sa-yuk, who could manipulate reality, and Shin Jong-hak, who was unaffected for some reason, everyone who didn't follow the rules was kicked out. Shh, be quiet so we can eavesdrop. Kim Suho danced half-heartedly and focused his attention on the second floor. Jin Sa-yuk and Yi Young-jan had just met face-to-face. Jin Sa-yuk spoke. "We meet again." Her eyes narrowed like those of a fox. However, Yi Young-jan remained silent and simply looked back and forth between Jin Sa-yuk and Shin Jong-hak. From the look in his eyes, he seemed confused. Soon he spoke up. "Looks like Ball's rules don't apply to you. I have my authority, but I don't know why it doesn't work on him." Jin Sa-yuk pointed to Shin Jong-hak, who was completely unaffected by Ball's rules. You're an interesting one," Yi Young-jan said to Shin Jong-hak. Immediately, Shin Jong-hak swung his conqueror's spear, and the spear cut through the air and stopped right in front of Yi Young-jan's neck. Shin Jong-hak asked, "Answer, where is Ball?" "Ball is raging." A somewhat random reply came back. Shin Jong-hak frowned, and Jin Sa-yuk immediately asked back, "We asked where Ball is, not what he's doing." "He's raging." "Is your head okay?" Jin Sa-yuk paused for a moment and stared at Yi Young-jan fixedly. Something seemed off about Yi Young-jan. His eyes were murky and his body didn't move. Almost like someone who lost something important, he sat dazed in his chair. "Ball's raging?" Jin Sa-yuk asked more seriously now. She wanted to grasp the situation accurately. Yi Young-jan didn't wait to answer. "That's right. Ball saw the truth from Bell's memories." "Truth? What truth?" Yi Young-jan tilted his head and looked at Jin Sa-yuk. However, Jin Sa-yuk couldn't look at him straight. She preferred his old greed-filled eyes rather than the current hollow ones. "Did you know?" Yi Young-jan asked. Jin Sa-yuk looked at Shin Jong-hak before answering, and when Shin Jong-hak shook his head, she looked back at Yi Young-jan. "Know what?" "That this world we live in is nothing but a novel written by a single man. That's right, a novel. A worthless one at that. The world I wanted to obtain so much wasn't worth a penny to that man. Even the almighty devil is nothing but a creation of a magicless complete world." Yi Young-jan continued to mumble as if he had lost his mind. Jin Sayuk tried to pick up on any clues she could find, but in the end she gave up and sighed. Fool, it looks like Ball ate your brain. This is what you get for being too greedy and trying to obtain what's out of your league.
Out of my league? That's right. A mere character like myself dared to take over a world. Shut your mouth. Jin Sayuk gathered magic power in her hands. She tried to kill Lee Yun-jun. It was then Bell's face suddenly popped up in her mind. Before he died, he said he knew 2 truths, but he died while keeping one of them to himself. That truth most certainly would have flowed into Ball's head. As a curious devil, there was no doubt Ball would absorb the memories of his host. Oi. Jin Sayuk retracted her magic power and looked into Lee Yun-jun's eyes. Tell me slowly and in detail. What did you hear from Ball? No matter what he found out, he couldn't possibly fear anything. Ball is raging. No, there is no human who is afraid of an ant. Rage is just another form of fear. Some people might detest ants, but no one is angry at them. Similarly, there was no reason for Ball to be angry at humans. Hearing this, Lee Yun-jun closed his eyes and opened them again. Jin Sayuk's stiffened face was right in front of him. Fine, if you want to hear it so much, I'll tell you. With a straight face, Lee Yun-jun began to describe the memories he received from Ball. Outside Ball's castle. Hajin? It's really you, Hajin. Evandel replied. I immediately wrote back. Of course it's me. Have you been doing well? Duchess Ah-hae-in is treating you well, right? This is really cool. How did you get this to work? Evandel's handwriting was neat and clean. Seeing how much she had grown, I held back my tears. I made it, but a magician in this world helped me send it over. At that moment, the magician in question spoke up. How interesting. I didn't think it would work so well. She had no sign of happiness or pride. Aren't you happy? It's not like I did much. I only brought a scroll without a destination. You're the one who completed it in an absurd fashion. I didn't see you make any calculations. I didn't even see what you did to modify the scroll. I scratched the back of my neck. I didn't have much to say to that. That was just how Stigma was. The co-authors said it was a special authority of the creator, although I could barely call myself the creator at this point. Anyways, you helped prove something I wasn't sure of, that dimensional travel is possible. I can cross dimensions and go to another world. While Shimurin was murmuring, I felt a group of people approaching us. I turned my head in that direction. Huh? Rachel, Yoon Sung-ah, Cha Na-yoon, Lee Young-han, people I was familiar with, were walking over with exorcist weapons. I quickly put on Black Lotus's hood and mask, and then took out the Black Lotus bow. Be careful, Jain. Those guys are coming. Who should I turn into? Jain pondered for a moment before turning into Chak Jung-young. She flexed her Hulk-like muscles and looked at me. How is it? Jain grinned sweetly with Chak Jung-young's face. I held myself from puking. Don't talk and smile like that when you're in that form. Ah, sure. Cha Na-yoon and the others arrived a bit later. They stopped running when they saw us. What are you guys doing here? Yoon Sung-ah was the first to speak. Behind her, Rachel and Cha Na-yoon looked at us suspiciously. Jain then gave the same arrogant smile Chak Jung-young often made. Nothing much. Are you trying to enter this castle too? Oi, fat boar, who's that next to you? Cha Na-yoon asked, as she glared at me. Jain shrugged as if the answer was obvious. It's Blackie, can't you see? I grabbed my bow to emphasize my identity. But suddenly, everyone else picked up their weapons and stood on guard. Why are you raising your bow? Put it down! Do you want to fight? Yoon Sung-ah's hostile voice rang out, and Rachel's elementals flickered in the air. I felt a strong urge to reveal my true identity, but I forced it down. Until everything ends, no, even after everything ends, I had to be Black Lotus. I spoke. You can go in. Your friends are inside. We have no desire to hinder you. The mask changed my voice. I made another messenger with setting intervention and threw it to Yoon Sung-ah. The paper flew faster than a bullet, but Yoon Sung-ah easily caught it with her fingers. What's this?
It will let you contact me. Take it with you. I will protect you and Kim Suho from here. Protect? Yoon Sung-ah frowned. I nodded. How you expect us to believe you? You don't have to if you don't want to. You will know once you go in. Yoon Sung-ah stared at the paper suspiciously. Meanwhile, I glanced at Shimurin. Shimurin smirked and immediately cast a spell. As expected from a grand magician, a flash of light erupted and we were teleported far away. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I delayed the spell as long as possible because the situation looked funny. You did? Well, it's fine since we passed them the messenger. As long as I can contact them, I should be able to protect them. With a grin, I took out the mystic key and Athena's arrow. Now it was time to do my job. Let's see. A way to destroy Ball's castle. I didn't know whether Jin Sayuk knew about it, but I did have one way of accomplishing this. Would you like to fuse Mystic Key with Athena's arrow? Warning, the chance of success is astronomically low. By using my level 10 synthesis skill and Stigma's magic power, I could fuse the Mystic Key and Athena's arrow. The resulting arrow should be capable of dismantling anything in the world. Synthesis failed. Mystic Key and Athena's arrow have been destroyed. Huh? Tsk. With a powerful snapping sound, Athena's arrow broke in half and the Mystic Key turned into dust. I blinked repeatedly and looked at the remnants of the items. Like a carp stuck in a frozen pond, I stared blankly at the remains. What the? A panicked mutter escaped from my mouth. Yo, what happened to my items? The completely unexpected result caught me off guard. A mental breakdown was coming over me. Feeling like I was dreaming, I gathered the remnants of the broken items in a last-ditch effort to make things right. Then I used synthesis again. Synthesis failed. Not even dust remained. My legs gave out and I fell to the ground.
Chapter 343. Synthesis failed. Don't calm down. Wait, that's not right. Calm down. I took a deep breath. The Mystic Key and Athena's arrow might have been destroyed, but there had to be a better solution. Oi, you okay? A voice rang in my head. I turned my head in a daze. Shimurin and Jane were staring at me. Hajin, what's wrong? Their voices sounded distant, as if I were underwater. Suddenly, I felt sleepy. Maybe everything would return to normal if I just went to sleep and woke up. Wait, no, that was just running away from reality. What's wrong with him? He seems out of it all of a sudden. Time reversal. Huh? Even though it would hurt a lot, I could just go back in time. Whew. I took deep breaths. Once, twice, thrice. What are you doing? Shimurin and Jane stared at me strangely. I took one final breath and turned to face them. Using time reversal just to recover destroyed items? A sudden philosophical thought popped into my head. Would Jane in the present be the same person as Jane 3 minutes in the past? I shook my head and pushed the thought away. See you in a bit. I closed my eyes and activated time reversal. The wind blew backward and a warping sensation surrounded my body. When I opened my eyes, the Athena's moonlight arrow and the Mystic Key were both in my hands. I breathed out a sigh of relief. My legs gave out and I slumped down on the ground again. Jane and Shimurin gave me strange looks, but that didn't matter. Looking at the key and the arrow in my hands, I fell into thought. Should I try fusing them again, or should I be content that I restored them? It was then that something strange occurred. A bright orb of light appeared in the air above the items. The sun-like orb began to bloom like a budding flower. I stared at it with wide eyes. As the orb gave off a dazzling golden light, a system window popped up. The accumulation of luck stacked 8 times activates. Miracle retry. For the next 30 minutes, your invariable stat, luck, rises to 9.99. Colosseum. What happened to the thing I talked about?
In the Colosseum's waiting room, Jin Se-yun asked Chuk Jung-yun, who was lounging on the couch. "Do I really have to bring it?" Jin Se-yun had asked Chuk Jung-yun to bring the furniture from the Chameleon Troop's hideout, knowing how much Vasago was interested in them. "Yes, I told you, they'll come in handy during our negotiation." "What, after we beat him up, we'll console him by giving him some furniture and tell him to go home?" Regardless of what the plan is, having more options isn't bad. "But it's not like we can leave this place." Jin Se-yun furrowed her brows at Chuk Jung-yun's question. "Don't you guys have Khalifa? Tell him to come here." Challengers couldn't leave the Colosseum once they entered, but Jin Se-yun and Chuk Jung-yun earned the right to invite a guest after fighting their way to level 8. Chuk Jung-yun got up from the couch and asked, "You know Khalifa?" "Pardon?" "Ah, well, the Chameleon Troop is famous after all." Chuk Jung-yun still gave her a suspicious glance. Jin Se-yun let out a few dry coughs and explained, "I did some background investigation." "Why?" Jin Se-yun raised her brows unhappily, and Chuk Jung-yun did the same. "You think I can trust someone who investigated us so easily?" "Tsk!" Jin Se-yun scratched the back of her neck. She trudged to the bed and lay down. Chuk Jung-yun smirked and lay back down on the couch. Silence filled the room. The level 8 challenger's waiting room was large and quiet. After a moment, a soft voice cut through the air. "You guys killed my father." It was Jin Se-yun's voice. Chuk Jung-yun murmured while still lying on the couch, "It's pretty common." "Killing people?" "In this world, it's common to kill and be killed. You should know it too. Think of all the jinns you killed. Aren't they human too?" Jin Se-yun twisted her body to the side. Her bow was leaning on the head of the bed. It was the same bow that had taken the lives of hundreds of jinns. Jin Se-yun spoke calmly. "My father was my only family." "That's common too. There are also people who were born orphans." "I sometimes wish I was born an orphan too." Pfft! Chuk Jung-yun suddenly chuckled. Jin Se-yun furrowed her brows and glared at him. "What's funny?" "Nothing. I just remembered something. There was once someone who used to make fun of me by calling me orphan producer." "What?" "I think it's funny. You don't have to laugh if you don't think so." Chuk Jung-yun got up from the couch, his large body towering over Jin Se-yun. Looking at her, Chuk Jung-yun smiled. "If you want to avenge your father, I'll welcome you any time. I don't know if I'm the one who killed him, but the Chameleon Troop is one being. But just know that you'll have to put your life on the line as well." Chuk Jung-yun spoke calmly. He had no fear of death, having spent most of his life with one foot in the river Styx. Jin Se-yun's face quickly turned vicious. "No, thank you. You weren't part of the Chameleon Troop when that incident happened." "Oh yeah?" "Yes, you were busy running around the steppes of Manchu killing people." "You even know about that?" "Owie, don't look at me like I'm some sort of monster. I'm not the man I used to be." "Oh, please, there are even rumors that you eat human flesh." "Human flesh? I don't eat things that aren't tasty. Plus, it's true that I changed. That guy changed me before I even noticed it." "That guy? You mean Black Lotus?" "Yep." "What do you mean by that?" When she heard Black Lotus's name, Jin Se-yun peeked her head out of under the bedsheet. She was attracted to Black Lotus for reasons she didn't understand. Was it admiration, fear, respect, or rivalry? She didn't know how to describe her feelings for him, but her intuition as the divine archer told her that there was something about Black Lotus that resembled herself. "Feel free to tell me more," Jin Se-yun spoke gently. Chuk Jung-yun raised his head. Jin Se-yun was looking at him in anticipation. However, Chuk Jung-yun only gave a cold smirk before lying back down. "Nah, just a bet." "No. I'll talk to Khalifa about that furniture, though, not that I think it will help." Jin Se-yun scratched her cheek. She was still happy about the information she pried out, so she let it go for the day and closed her eyes. Good night. Baal's Palace, Banquet Hall. An orchestral classical piece was still playing as Jin Se-yun stared at Yi Yeon-jun. Yi Yeon-jun continued as he looked deeper into Jin Sa-hyuk's eyes.
Do you get what kind of existence you are now? You're nothing but a puppet. Jin Sa-hyuk didn't say anything. She simply thought Yi Yeon-jun had gone crazy. But she also didn't think he was completely insane. At that moment, Shin Jong-hak spoke up.
That fool must be misunderstanding something, right?
What? When Jin Sa-hyuk furrowed her brows, Shin Jong-hak smirked and continued.
I don't know if it's his delusion or a side effect of his gift, but he must believe that this world is a novel. He's living while believing that it is.
Shin Jong-hak was saying that Kim Hajin was a megalomaniac who deluded himself into thinking that this world was a novel he wrote. However, Jin Sa-hyuk knew Ball was more than capable of discerning reality from fantasy. As far as she was concerned, it was more probable that Yi Yeon-jun had gone crazy rather than doubting Ball. Shush! Regardless, what she had to do was simple. Where's Ball? To find Ball. She would know the truth when she talked to him. Yi Yeon-jun readily replied, Baal's upstairs. So what do we need to do to go up? You need more people. As he said that, Yi Yeon-jun pointed to the banquet hall's door. Jin Sa-hyuk and Shin Jong-hak both turned their gazes downward. Kick! At that moment, the door creaked open. Jin Sa-hyuk frowned, and Shin Jong-hak's face lit up with joy. Huh? Where's this? On the first floor of the banquet hall, Chai Na-yeon was looking around with a greatsword in her hand. I'm not sure. Some sort of party? Yoon Sung-ah's gaze scanned the hall. I see Suho-si over there. Rachel pointed at a couple dancing in the middle of the hall. Kim Suho and Eileen also spotted them. Kim Suho couldn't hear Yi Yeon-jun because he was focused on dancing. Once the others arrived, Kim Suho greeted them with a smile. Hey, Suho, it's been a while. Yoon Sung-ah stared at Kim Suho from a little distance away. She was happy to see him, but did not show it on her face. Oh, yes, it really has been a while. Kim Suho stood straight and bowed slightly. Yoon Sung-ah smiled bitterly and told Kim Suho and Eileen about who they met. We met Black Lotus. Really? Yeah, he said he's helping you. Is that true? Yes, it is. Jin Sa-hyuk turned back to Yi Yeon-jun. Yi Yeon-jun opened his mouth as if he had been waiting for this moment. Now that there are 11 of you here, you should be able to go up. Go ahead. Find Baal and hear the truth. Then you can fall into despair. Shin Jong-hak hopped down to the first floor to see Chai Na-yeon, leaving only Jin Sa-hyuk glaring at Yi Yeon-jun. But not long after, Jin Sa-hyuk made her usual proud smile. Yi Yeon-jun, it looks like you're mistaken. Jin Sa-hyuk gathered magic power in her hands. Her black magic power coalesced like a storm and emanated an overwhelming presence. Her authority blazed up as it devoured reality. She reached out with her burning right hand and grabbed Yi Yeon-jun's head. Looking at Yi Yeon-jun's empty eyes, she shouted loudly, I am not a puppet, but a king. And the one who decides that isn't you or this world. It's me. I am the one who decides who I am. As long as I'm alive, I am a king, and that's all I need to know to live in this world. She could feel several presences from her spot on the balcony. Chai Na-yeon and Shin Jong-hak, Kim Suho and Yoon Sung-ah, Eileen and Kim Young-jin. There were even more climbing up the staircase. She could even feel Kim Hajin watching over her from outside. Jin Sa-hyuk made a faint smile. I am different from you entirely. Suddenly an explosion erupted in the middle of the banquet hall. Yi Yeon-jun scattered into dust, and Jin Sa-hyuk looked down from the balcony with wide eyes. What happened? Who are these people? The men and women who had been dancing in the hall had all turned into death knights. What? Jin Sa-hyuk froze. She looked down at the first floor in a daze.
Take out your weapons, everyone. I lean on me. Yeah, I know. I'll take care of it. Hundreds of Death Knights were surrounding the group. But what shocked Jin Sahak wasn't the sheer number of Death Knights or the sudden disappearance of Yi Yeonjun. The Death Knights weren't wearing helmets, so Jin Sahak recognized them. Even if they were wearing them, she wouldn't have missed the insignia on their armor and shields. A crown of ice and a wolf. That was the symbol of Jin Sahak's kingdom, Plarion. They were the Knights of Plarion who had protected her, until the moment she died.
Chapter 344. Baal's Castle, Banquet Hall. The Death Knights revived by the devil had no emotion in their eyes. However, their hands gripped their swords tightly. Having lost their consciousness and will, their bodies, left with only instinct, stared at Jin Sayuk. They were the Knights of Plarion, the servants of Jin Sayuk who once dreamed of a brighter future. Jin Sayuk clenched her teeth. She was more confused than angry. Ah! At that moment, Chae Na-yoon swung her sword with a spirited shout. Her greatsword, infused with magic power, shattered the banquet hall's ceiling. Sunshine, earth, watery! Rachel called her elementals. The elementals of wind, ground, and water floated up and revealed themselves. Earth focused on defense, creating barriers to protect its allies. Watery transformed into a cold mist and froze some of the Death Knights. Whoosh! Gusts of white sword wind swept across the battlefield, almost like falling cherry blossoms. This was the work of Yoon Sung-ah's flower sword. With elegant movements, Yoon Sung-ah displayed her swordsmanship. Ah! Of course, that wasn't enough to stop the knights who were already dead. In fact, the ones that had their heads cut off charged at Yoon Sung-ah even more viciously. Although her flower sword severed their arms and legs, one Death Knight eventually reached her. Just as its sword was about to stab her, a fierce wind blew around her. "A storm will devour you!" A storm of spirit speech pushed the Death Knights up into the sky. Immediately afterwards, a flash of golden light from the Sword Saint cut through them. Kwa! A shower of golden light poured down from the sky. Kim Soo-ho's sword light eliminated dozens of Death Knights instantly. He looked back at Yoon Sung-ah and muttered, "Let's continue." Yoon Sung-ah gave a faint smile at his encouragement. She woke from her stupor and returned to battle. Quang! Clang! Kung! The battle continued, destroying the banquet hall. The fancy interior turned into a muddy mess as hundreds of Death Knights fought back ceaselessly. Jin Sayuk watched her knights from the balcony. She saw them beheaded, their hands chopped off, and their swords destroyed. Fuck! 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 Jin Sayuk cursed out loud. She knew they weren't the real Knights of Plarion. Baal had to be playing a trick on her after reading Belle's memories. She tried to calm herself, to overcome this unwelcome taste. But she couldn't. Ah! Jin Sayuk let out a short cry. A small child she saw in the distance broke her heart. What? In the corner of the dark battlefield, a child from Plarion was hiding by the curtain. Jin Sayuk remembered the pitiful boy. He was someone she had incarcerated and left to die. The boy who died in the prison cell was now staring at her. Puharen, the boy who turned into a devil. Her chest pounded. Unable to meet his eyes, Jin Sayuk closed her own. Something welled up from the bottom of her heart. The boy's face surfaced beneath her eyelids. Jin Sayuk fell to her knees. The seal of magic power buried deep inside her broke. A faint voice rose up, like falling sand in an hourglass. Why am I stuck here? It's cold. I'm hungry. How long do I have to wait? The chains are cold. The pain isn't going away. I want to leave. Let me out. Let me out. Jin Sayuk covered her ears, but she could still hear the voice. She clutched her chest in pain, but the pain didn't go away. Jin Sayuk breathed heavily and remembered Akatrina. A world full of sadness, loneliness, and regret. Her kingdom. the boy she killed to become king who returned to destroy her kingdom as a devil. She couldn't forget Puharen. She felt nauseous and her head hurt. Almost as if her limbs were rotting away, her past ate away at her. Jin Sayuk! Jin Sayuk! Snap out of it! At that moment, a voice woke her up. Jin Sayuk snapped her eyes open in surprise. What? Finally, you can hear me. A sighing voice rang out. Jin Sayuk quickly noticed it was Kim Hajin's voice. What are you doing there, squatting? Are you okay? What? You can see me? Where are you? I'm outside the castle, but I can see what's happening inside with my awakened eyes. Reinforcements are coming soon, by the way. Quang! Just as he said that, the banquet hall door burst open. Knight Commander, we are here! Reinforcements had arrived just like Kim Hajin said. Dozens of knights led by Iron, the devil hunter Haren, heroes from Earth like Yu Hei and Yi Jian, and Yi Young Ha and Nicholas from the Temple of Justice. They were the allies who entered Baal's barrier through the gap Kim Hajin opened. Looks like the party's already started. Nicholas, the rank 4 member of the Temple of Justice, raised her dagger. With a seductive smile, she licked her dagger. Next, Yi Young Ha appeared with his staff raised. We're here, Chairman. Not too late, right? Looking at Yi Young Ha, Eileen smirked. No, you're super late. And also, what's up with that staff? It's a gift from Yenhashi. It adds the exorcism attribute to my fire. Yi Young Ha imbued his magic power into the staff. An unextinguishable hellfire shot up into the sky. But Jin Sayuk didn't pay any attention to it. How long were you watching? Jin Sayuk asked Kim Hajin. For about 3 minutes, I guess. Did you hear anything? Hear what? It seemed Kim Hajin didn't know about the conversation she had with Yi Young Jung. She paused for a moment to think. Yi Young Jung said that this world was a novel Kim Hajin created, but she didn't have time to confirm whether that was true. At that moment, Kim Hajin spoke up once more. Anyway, I think I can do it. Do what? Jin Sayuk infused magic power into her heart as she replied. It was a unique process to overcome her trauma. Destroy the castle. Really? Yeah, but I'm going to do it right now. Now? Yep. So, King, I'll trust you to take care of Baal. Tss, do whatever you want. Jin Sayuk got up without saying much. Kim Hajin's snarky command got on her nerves, but she liked being called a king. She stood tall and looked into the distance. Puharen was still there, but this time she didn't avert her gaze. She suddenly let out a chuckle. She realized she had no feelings when she looked at Puharen. She knew that the true worth of her authority, reality manipulation, was in manipulating the inside rather than the outside. I bet you didn't know this, you piece of shit. Using this authority, she eliminated the complicated and dark feelings she had towards Puharen. Now she could even smile while looking at him. I'll go find you soon, Baal. Jin Sayuk looked up at the ceiling and crossed her arms arrogantly. Behind her, a terrifying amount of magic power rose up. Her reddish-black magic power turned into dozens of spears. Outside Baal's castle, a forest shrouded by a barrier. Yup, so King, I'll trust you to take care of Baal. I sent Jin Sayuk a mental transmission as I held the Black Lotus bow and mystic key in my hands. Since I had activated my ultimate skill, complete understanding of spirit power, my mental transmission was crystal clear. Do whatever you want. Jin Sayuk's reply was simple. With a grin, I checked my luck stat once more. Invariable stat. Luck. 9.9. A luck stat transcending human capability. I wasn't sure what I would gain from this 30-minute period, but I knew I couldn't waste this opportunity. I immediately used synthesis, fusing Athena's moonlight arrow with mystic key. The chance of success is astronomically low, but you succeed. A perfect fusion increases the rank of the item. The key fused with the arrow and became Athena's mystic arrow. Are you ready now? You're going to shoot now? Yep.
I nodded at Jane's question. Then I knocked the arrow onto the bow. Keek! The bowstring tensed. I aimed the bow at the devil's castle, targeting only the castle. Using overclocking, I squeezed out every ounce of Stigma's magic power. Ugh! It felt like my heart was going to burst from the time reversal I was forced to use, but it was bearable. I needed to endure it at the very least. You used overclocking. Your life force has been damaged. Luck activates. You used overclocking. Your life force has been damaged. Luck activates. Magic power gathered by repeating the above process and began to shake the heaven and earth as it brewed up a storm. Whish! The air current surrounding me flowed into the arrow, and leaves and grass flew into the air. Tss, tss. Burned by the magic power, the soil and rock underneath me turned black. I'm shooting now. Get ready. Before I fired, I signaled Jin Sahayuk. It was then. Suddenly, someone approached me from behind. That person broke through Jane and Shimuren and reached out towards me, pulling my arrow and twisting its course. Quah! At the same time, large and narrow blades shot up from the spot I was standing. What? I stared at the devil's castle as I was dragged back by the mysterious hand. Even I couldn't see the peak of the castle. A mysterious barrier was blocking my vision. But I decided not to worry about it too much. In fact, I wondered what devastating effect my 9.9 luck stat would have. Devil's Castle. Ball's room. On the other hand, Yi Yun-jun returned to Ball's room. He was still raging. Although Yi Yun-jun couldn't see Ball, he could sense the demonic energy covering the room. Yi Yun-jun empathized with Ball. Ball called himself a world collector, yet he had just found out that he himself was nothing more than a small piece of a collection. Ball? Yi Yun-jun called Ball's name. At that moment, gong, the space pulsed intensely. It was a pulsation of anger. Soon, demonic energy gathered and formed the shape of a giant face. This was the personification of Ball, a transcendent being. Ball moved his lips made of magic power. Who permitted you to speak my name? Yi Yun-jun stared at Ball, who was expressing his anger. Ball narrowed his eyes and glared at Yi Yun-jun. What's your plan now? Yi Yun-jun's brusque tone caused Ball to narrow his eyes even further. His face twitched a bit, as if he was deep in thought. Then he span out in a non-human voice. Let me ask you first, human. The room rumbled. Ball's fury permeated the space. How do you plan to live from now on? It depends on the truth of the memory you passed me. That was the truth. There was not a single bit of falsehood in the memory Bell gave me. That was truth. Are you sure? Don't get too cocky, human. I am an existence that has transcended worlds. I could tell that that was the truth. Then, Yi Yun-jun closed his eyes. I don't have confidence. Yi Yun-jun couldn't find a way to overcome the helplessness and sense of emptiness. Because he found value in things that weren't himself, knowing that this world was a novel was a huge blow to him. He couldn't ignore it as easily as Jin Sahayuk. But Ball was different. A human's anger was different from Ball's anger. As a mere human, Yi Yun-jun lost his drive. However, Ball was still powerful. I will become the destroyer. Ball's demonic energy surged up. His presence enveloped the entire castle. The Demon Realm Gate, the Devil's Castle, and the container known as Bell. The conditions for descent had all been met. I will destroy that irresponsible, reckless man and put an end to the world he created. Gwah! An overwhelming reverberation of magic power shook the room. Yi Yun-jun closed his eyes as Ball released demonic energy and fury. Ball's demonic energy stormed the room as if to destroy the world. It was then. A small arrow broke through the barrier. Ball and Yi Yun-jun turned to the bed, which had just been struck by the arrow. A moment of silence filled the room. In this short period, Yi Yun-jun pondered, how did this arrow get here? But before he could even think, the arrow released a brilliant light. Chwaa!
A hot, holy current of silver light swallowed everything in the room.
Chapter 345. Early morning, while the full moon still shone brightly in the sky, a baby wrapped in a quilt was placed on the steps of a temple. Faint light illuminated the baby's face. He didn't cry, only stared at his mother's face. Soon, the mother began to cry. She turned back as her baby watched her and walked away reluctantly. A smile appeared on the innocent baby's face. Hearing the baby's laughter, the mother began to run. Tears scattered in the air as she ran. As the moon faded, the temple's door opened with the sunrise. An old nun stopped in front of the baby. With a sigh, she picked him up. The baby opened his eyes, reflecting the nun's wrinkled face. With a gentle smile, the nun stroked the baby's quilt and congratulated his birth. The baby was thus placed in the temple's care and given the name Aaron. Aaron spent much of his childhood in the temple. It was his home, his place of worship, his playground, and his school. The nuns taught him many things. Aaron was never fond of studying. He preferred cutting wood. Rather than history, he wanted to learn swordsmanship and knighthood. But because the temple was in the rural countryside, far from the capital, the nuns couldn't provide the education he wanted, no matter how hard they tried. With mutual understanding, Aaron became the knight student. He felt happy every time he swung his sword. In those moments, he wasn't sad about not having parents or friends. Aaron trained with his sword and even slept with it. The dream of becoming a knight sprouted within him. The hero of justice he read about in fairy tales, he trained every day, imagining himself as such a person. The nuns watched him grow with pride, treating him as their own son. But their time was short, as the demon realm transformation, which had been slowly devouring Akatrina, finally reached the temple. Outside Baal's castle. The misfired arrow flew to the top of Baal's castle, then into a bed, causing a silver explosion. The power of dismantling imbued in the arrow shook the entire castle. The rumbling became a terrifying storm of energy, destroying the upper parts of the castle. The demonic energy surrounding the castle scattered and its foundation broke down. The destruction wasn't limited to the top. Quah! With an explosive sound, the building collapsed. The shell of Baal's devil's castle broke down completely. But I didn't have time to watch. A blade shot toward me from behind. Clang! An instant barrier formed and blocked the attack. The barrier was neither Jane's nor Shimmerin's. I let out a sigh of relief and turned to the side. I saw a familiar face. A smile appeared on my face when I saw her. "Did you rest well, boss?" Boss had appeared out of nowhere and protected me. "You should be careful when you're using your bow." Boss, are you okay now?" Jane cut in. Boss nodded nonchalantly, and Shimmerin shrugged, looking at Boss like she was her disciple. Rather than that, Boss's shadow stretched out, flying at the speed of light. It grabbed the person who attacked me and dragged him by his feet. Goop! The air was a djinn. The shadow coiled around his body and strangled his neck. Looking at his face, I frowned. I remembered seeing him before. But since I couldn't recall, I used observation and reading to check his setting. You're from Terror's Lackeys. I finally remembered. I'd seen his face on a wanted poster in Violet Banquet. He was a subordinate of Terror, one of the 9 evils. I almost forgot. I guess the 9 evils are still alive and well. I turned to Boss, who nodded. Other than Destruction, who was killed by Eileen, the rest of the 9 evils were still unharmed. Terror is a supporter of Astaroth. Let's interrogate this man and find out where Terror is hiding. Boss withdrew her shadow and grabbed the djinn's neck with her hand. She seemed quite angry. "Oi, I don't think you should be paying attention to that guy right now," Shimmerin muttered, watching Baal's crumbling castle. "Huh? Look!"
Shimmerin pointed at the castle with a grin. Above it, Ball appeared. He looked just like Bell, his incarnation body. He was glaring at me. "Rah!" he roared. His scream shook everything inside his barrier. Soon, Ball's body rose to the sky. At the same time, a terrifying amount of demonic energy flowed out. Ball unleashed his demonic energy in all directions. It seeped into his barrier, turning it even darker. I had no idea what he was planning. Oi! Shimmerin seemed to know something as she nudged my shoulder with a grin. I looked back at her blankly. "Wait for me. I'll see you again soon." As she said that, she covered us in a barrier. Immediately afterwards, the world exploded. Virtual reality game. Larage's game. Around the same time, Larage's character, Linjing, shook. She looked up at the game's sky, feeling an explosion of demonic energy somewhere far away. "Lord!" Her loyal servant, Court, known by his ID, Larage's MeMonster, shouted. Larage nodded and spoke through the chat system. "Looks like old man finally descended." Larage let out a light sigh and looked around. A vast wilderness dyed in darkness spread before her. This was Lekior Field, a famous high-level training ground. In the game, because it had a high spawn rate of powerful monsters, most players couldn't enter. However, Larage and her servants had easily occupied the place with Larage's special control. "Take all the items," Larage ordered her guild members. "Blacksmith, can you make something with this?" "With enough of them, I should be able to make a high-rank obsidian breastplate." A week had passed since the game's release. The game was more realistic than one might expect. To craft high-rank equipment, a large quantity of materials was needed. But no matter how good one's equipment was, a moment of carelessness could lead to death. Plus, there was no revival mechanic. Death in the game was permanent. Larage enjoyed this realism, and so did other players. If the game wasn't fun, it never would have reached 15 million concurrent players. The game company Liol really created the RPG of the century. "Will you go meet His Highness Ball?" Court asked as he collected the items. His expression was serious, but the way he hunched over was funny. "I should, but since I made a promise with this world, I will keep it. My war will only be within this game. We will follow our Lord's wishes." Court bowed, and Larage nodded without a word. "I'll log out first." "Yes, Lord." Larage logged out. Meanwhile, Court remained in the game. He wanted to follow Larage, but he had been ordered to take care of in-game duties. 15 million human players were gunning for Larage's guild. It was 15 million versus 1,000, so to speak. Court refused to let his guard down even for a moment. "Blood brothers!" Court turned to his fellow demons and shouted with a serious face. "Collect the items. We will move to the next dungeon soon." Court and the guild members quickly gathered the items. "We're ready, sir." "Good."
Cortec laughed and pointed at the boss dungeon cave in the distance. "Let's get moving. Get ready for a boss raid." Boss raids were one of the most fun parts of this game. Cortec was somewhat disappointed that his lord would miss the upcoming raid. "Yes, sir." Cortec began to march toward the cave. The members of Larage's guild were filled with excitement and anticipation for the battle. Although they played for Larage's sake, they truly enjoyed it as well. Earth. Korea. Hajin! Kim Hajin! I slowly opened my eyes. I felt terrible aches all over my body, but I could tell someone was shaking me. "Wake up!" It was Kim Soo-ho. He was slapping my cheeks and saying something. I looked at his lips. "Wake up, Kim Hajin! Wake up!" Kim Soo-ho was shaking me and slapping me, his face full of worry. However, I couldn't move my body at all. It was as if all my energy had been drained. "Hajin! Hajin, snap out of it!" After an unknown amount of time, my consciousness returned, and my other senses, including hearing, recovered. Kim Hajin, are you okay? I swallowed the saliva pooling in my mouth. I looked at the sky and the world around me. I recognized the scenery. I could see Essential Armory's protective barrier in the distance, and even North Hamgyong Province's city. This was undoubtedly Korea. I looked out at the horizon in a daze. Are you okay? Kim Soo-ho asked again. I turned to him and nodded. He helped me up. We're back on Earth? Yeah. I first checked if Aether worked. After protecting me from the explosion, it had transformed into a small bag and was storing Black Lotus's equipment. I took out my Desert Eagle and looked up at the clear blue sky. What? I furrowed my brows in confusion. Did Jin Sa-yuk and Kim Soo-ho kill Baal in that short moment? I faced Kim Soo-ho again. What happened to Baal? I don't know. The castle suddenly exploded and this happened. Only then did I realize who was around me. Chae Na-yoon, Shin Jong-hak, Yoon Sung-ah, Jin Sa-hyuk, Lee Young-han, Kim Young-jin, and even Jane and Boss. They were all sprawled out on the ground. Ah! I got up to run to Boss, but I didn't need to. Jin Yo-han, Kaita, and Khalifa appeared and took Jane and Boss away. Soon, other high-ranking heroes arrived. Oh, looks like everyone's back. Yoo Si-hyuk appeared with 9 white wolves. Young-ha! Young-ha! Yoo Jin-young ran around looking for his daughter. Look for anyone who's injured. It doesn't matter what guild they're from. We have to save everyone. Vice Leader Lee Jin-ah arrived with Essence of the Straits heroes. Also arriving were So Young-ji, Oh Jun-yak, the fully armored Henkis, and the apathetic Chae Cha. Surrounded by hundreds of heroes, I breathed a sigh of relief. I felt like I could finally rest. Just as I relaxed a bit, a loud screech rang out in the sky. The clear sky turned reddish-black, and Baal appeared in the air once again. The heroes quickly prepared for battle. Kim Soo-ho also took out Mistletoe. I chuckled, thinking it would have been too easy if Baal was really dead. Grohak Durla Kroska Phaedra! Baal muttered incomprehensible words. The devil's cry tore through the sky and formed a pentagram. Goom! Demonic energy stormed through the air and the earth rumbled violently. Kim Soo-ho and I watched in a daze. Baal seemed to be casting a ritual-like grand magic. Come! In that moment, the pentagram flipped upside down, and the summoning of an evil god began. First, a giant leg appeared. The leg was bigger than anything I had ever seen, and it stepped onto Korea's land. Boom! The earth shook from the single step. A huge shockwave spread out, razing the nearby trees. Ah! Quack! Several medics fainted after being hit by the collapsing trees. Heroes who were crushed by the foot died on the spot. Kim Soo-ho's face froze as he watched the devastation. Meanwhile, I looked at Kim Soo-ho's hands. They were trembling. Kim Soo-ho was afraid. It must be because he recognized the owner of the leg. Rank 21, Devil Morax. He was the calamity that ruined Akatrina. Morax was larger and more destructive than the one we saw in the recorded past. Soo-ho. I grabbed Kim Soo-ho's trembling hand. He flinched in surprise and looked at me. I stared into his eyes and smiled. Don't worry. Kim Soo-ho swallowed. I gripped his hand more tightly and announced with confidence, I can kill someone like him with a single bullet. I wasn't lying, technically speaking. After all, I had done exactly that in the world of the recorded past. Kim Soo-ho looked at me in silence, searching for the source of my confidence.
After about a minute, he smirked and muttered, "It won't be that easy."
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.